Are you ready? Sorry, I had to. I'll put this right here so I can use my hands. Okay. Today, we are going to do the video to end all videos. This is the video for all of you that have questions about setting tools, about the Foredom Hammer Handpiece, about the Dremel Engraver, which is better, which is worse, which is more costly, what's more expensive, what can I get on a budget. I'm going to answer your questions here. And then when we're done, we're actually going to set a beautiful bezel, half with the Foredom Hammer Handpiece and half with the Dremel Engraver, so that you can see in real time how they work, the finish they leave, the amount of cleanup that you need to do afterwards, all the things. So, Dremel Engraver versus Foredom Hammer Handpiece. Which one is the right one for you? Let's find out. Do I wish I was using a stronger gemstone for this tutorial? Absolutely. I am using this enormous amethyst and it's so gorgeous. It's so beautiful. It's very pleochroic actually, and I love that. But we are going to set it in this bezel, and I honestly have not used the Foredom Hammer Handpiece in quite a while to set, so this is going to be interesting. But this bezel is ready to go. I have put a chamfer around the edge so it's thin enough that I can actually use it as a bezel. If you don't know how to modify your Dremel Engraver tips, I highly recommend going and checking out my other Dremel Engraver video where I talk about how to do that. And I just need to swap out my tip so that we can get started. So we will be doing the right side, my right, with the Dremel Engraver and then the left side with the Foredom Hammer Handpiece, but because we need to start setting north, south, east, west, I will do north and east with the Dremel Engraver and south and west with the Foredom Hammer Handpiece. Gonna be completely honest, this did not go the way I anticipated. I ended up going over the entire piece with the Dremel Engraver because I wasn't happy with how the Foredom Hammer Handpiece was finishing this bezel. It barely moved the metal, and so there was a clear difference in sides. The Dremel Engraver side had a nicer strip of metal covering the gemstone, securing it, and the Foredom Hammer Handpiece side had a very, very small rim of metal that was just touching the edge but not securing it enough. So the gemstone kept popping out because that side, that entire side, wasn't secured. So I did go over the entire piece with the Dremel Engraver. Now, maybe it's my technique with the Foredom Hammer Handpiece, because I know a lot of people use the Foredom Hammer Handpiece as their sole method of setting for things like bezels. I can't, like, it doesn't work for me in that way. I moved more metal in fewer passes with less pressure and in less time with the Dremel Engraver than I did with the Foredom Hammer Handpiece. I literally had to clean up the Foredom Hammer Handpiece's work with the Dremel Engraver. Now, again, this is just my opinion on the tools. I prefer the Dremel Engraver. You can, like I said, you can move more metal in less time and it just goes smoother. So hopefully you can see in the video that with the Foredom Hammer Handpiece, because it is a reciprocating action, a reciprocating hammer, it does tend to leave little hammer marks. Whereas with the Dremel Engraver, it's kind of like spreading butter. Like you just kind of paint with your tool and the metal just folds where it needs to, wherever you're applying pressure. So in terms of finishing, I feel I have less finishing to do with the Dremel Engraver than with the Foredom Hammer Handpiece. With the Foredom Hammer Handpiece, I would use a few different polishing wheels, like silicone polishing wheels, to go in and smooth out those hammering marks. With the Dremel Engraver, I would probably just go with one pass with my highest grit polishing wheel, just to even out any unevenness if there was any unevenness. That being said, I am going to go over the Foredom side just a little bit more with the Dremel Engraver so that it's even, because I don't want one side that's set and one side that's not. And then we can finish this up and polish her up, and I'll show you exactly how it turned out. One other thing that I would like to say for the Foredom Hammer Handpiece in regards to its reciprocating action. When you're working with softer stones, that terrifies me, because if you slip, if you're not paying attention, if that hammer hits the gemstone, it is way more force than the vibration of the Dremel Engraver grazing your gemstone. Now again, if it is a softer gemstone, they can both do damage, but I would prefer a vibration mark versus a hammer mark on my piece, because that hammer mark, if there's an inclusion, if there's a weak spot, something like that, can cause the entire gemstone to crack, whereas the vibration might not be as severe of damage. But on the flip side, if you have a heavily included gemstone and you're using the Dremel Engraver, the vibration might be so intense that it ruins the gemstone. So for things like emeralds, opals, things with deep inclusions, when you see that it says don't put this type of gemstone in an ultrasonic cleaner because it could ruin based on the inclusions, the same thing can happen with the Dremel Engraver. Again, it's that vibration. If that vibration is too strong, you have something trapped inside your inclusion, it could cause it to create a bigger inclusion or to break the stone entirely. So every tool is used at your own risk kind of thing, but I definitely feel the Dremel Engraver won in this instance. I do need to even out the edges of the bezel wall so that I can finish this up and it's good to go.